Welcome to Mind Clarity, where transformation begins from within. If you're ready to break free from limitations, awaken your true self, and take control of your life, make sure you become a member of this channel and join a community committed to growth, awareness, and real inner power. What if everything you believe about yourself is only a small fraction of who you truly are? What if the life you're living right now is being controlled by patterns you didn't even choose? There is a deeper force within you, silent, invisible, yet infinitely powerful, that has been guiding your every step. And the moment you become aware of it is the moment your entire reality begins to change. There's something inside you that is always trying to expand, always trying to grow. That invisible force we call your life, it's not something you can touch or measure, but it's the most real thing about you.
I remember when my mother passed away. Near the end, her body had become very fragile, barely weighing anything. But here's what struck me deeply. If you weighed her body a moment before she died, and then again a moment after, the weight would be exactly the same. Nothing physically changed, yet everything changed. The life that was there was suddenly gone. So what does that tell you? The thing we call life has no weight. It has no shape. It's not something you can measure or define. It's formless. It has no beginning, no ending. And that life, that invisible essence, is what we call God. That's not separate from you. That is you. It exists in every single one of us.
There's a powerful idea shared by Saint Germain. He said that if you truly want to work in alignment with higher forces, your mindset shouldn't be, "I wish I could reach them," or "I want their guidance." Instead, it should be, "I will refine myself. I will grow. I will become so aligned with love, wisdom, and truth that I naturally connect with that higher level." You don't chase it, you become it. And then it comes to you. If you feel like something is missing in your life, the answer isn't out there somewhere. It's in who you are becoming. You align yourself with the qualities you admire, and those experiences start showing up naturally.
In my own life, I went through a lot early on. I spent my childhood moving through foster homes and orphanages. My father left when I was very young, and my mother was left to raise 3 boys on her own at just 23. Those early years forced me to look inward. I had to discover something within myself, a sense of self-reliance that didn't depend on the outside world. Looking back now, I see it as a blessing. It taught me that everything I needed was already inside me. And even now, as I work on writing my book, I can feel that same inner guidance. I've written tens of thousands of words in a short time, and it doesn't even feel like I am doing it. It feels like something is moving through me. There's a quote from Lao Tzu that really captures this idea. He said that none of us are actually doing anything. We're being done. Life is unfolding through us. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and wondered what's happening? Your body changes in ways you didn't plan. You notice things that weren't there before, and you think, where did that come from? It's almost like you're watching it happen rather than controlling it. That's because, on a deeper level, you are not the body. The body is just the vessel. Your job is simply to take care of it, keep it as healthy as you can. But beyond that, it's doing what it does. And inside it, the real you, the infinite part of you, is simply observing. This is something we begin to understand when we practice awareness, like in yoga or meditation. You start to detach from the idea that you are your body or your limitations. You stop identifying with every discomfort, every struggle, every physical change. And yet, most people never reach that higher state of awareness. Why? Because they've been conditioned to believe in their limits. They've accepted the idea that they're ordinary, that they're separate from something greater, that they're not divine. But that belief is the real limitation. If you want to rise beyond it, you have to reprogram the way you think at the deepest level. You have to challenge the idea that you are small, powerless, or separate. Because the truth is, you are not just living life, you are life itself, expressing through a human form. Your subconscious mind is running most of your life without you even realizing it. It's the part of you that got you out of bed this morning, helped you get dressed, prepared your routine, and guided you here. When you drive a car, you're not consciously thinking about every tiny movement, when to turn, when to slow down, how to coordinate everything. All of that has already been programmed into your subconscious.
In fact, according to Bruce Lipton, around 96 to 97% of everything we do every single day is controlled by this automatic system. That means most of your thoughts, actions, and behaviors are coming from patterns that were installed in you long ago. And unfortunately, many of those patterns are built around the idea that you are limited, ordinary, and separate from something greater. I once shared a story on public television that really captures how these patterns shape our lives. It comes from Portia Nelson, who was asked to write her life story in 5 short chapters. What she wrote is simple, but incredibly powerful. In the first chapter, she walks down a street, falls into a deep hole, feels lost and helpless, and takes a long time to get out. She believes it's not her fault. In the second chapter, she walks down the same street, sees the hole, pretends it's not there, falls in again, and still feels like it's not her fault. In the third chapter, she sees the hole clearly this time. She still falls in, but now she recognizes it as a habit. She takes responsibility and gets out faster. In the fourth chapter, she sees the hole and chooses to walk around it. And in the fifth chapter, she simply walks down a completely different street. That final step is what transformation really looks like. It's not just about avoiding the same mistakes, it's about changing your entire direction. Most people stay stuck because they identify completely with their physical world. They believe they are only their body, their possessions, their circumstances. They trust only what they can see, hear, touch, and measure. Their identity becomes tied to their bank account, their status, their appearance, and everything external. This is the space where the ego lives. It's what some spiritual teachers call the false self. It convinces you that who you are is defined by what you own, what you achieve, and how others see you.
One of the strongest beliefs the ego holds is this: I am what I have. So people spend years chasing more money, more things, more validation, thinking that's where fulfillment comes from. But ancient wisdom teaches something very different. It tells you to let go, to release your attachment to things. When I moved to Maui, I made a radical decision to give away everything I owned. Books, clothes, furniture, personal belongings, everything was donated. It wasn't about loss, it was about freedom. It was about realizing that none of those things defined me. The ego also tells you, I am what I do. It pushes you to measure your worth based on your achievements, your career, your titles, and your success in the eyes of the world. We're conditioned from a young age to believe that happiness comes from accomplishments, good grades, promotions, recognition.
But there's another perspective that challenges this completely. It says that doing less can actually lead to more. That forcing, chasing, and struggling are not the way forward. Lao Tzu expressed this idea beautifully when he said, I do nothing, yet nothing is left undone. At first, it sounds confusing, almost like a contradiction. But there's deep truth in it. It points to a state where you are so aligned with life that things flow through you naturally, without resistance. When you let go of the need to control everything, when you stop defining yourself by what you have or what you do, something shifts. You move into a different way of living, one where you are no longer reacting to life, but allowing life to move through you. That's what it means to walk down another street.
It's not about fixing the old patterns over and over again. It's about stepping into a completely new level of awareness, where you are no longer trapped by the identity you were taught to believe in.
From a very young age, we are taught to define ourselves by what we achieve. We start believing that our worth is tied to our grades, our success, and how much we can accumulate. It slowly becomes less about what we are learning and more about how we are being measured. What we wear, the brands we choose, the image we present, these things begin to feel like they determine who we are. And without realizing it, we get pulled into a cycle that is built on surface-level validation. This is the false identity taking control. Another layer of this false identity shows up in the way we care about other people's opinions. We begin to think, I am what others think of me. Our reputation becomes everything. We seek approval, chase validation, and constantly adjust ourselves just to be accepted. It becomes exhausting because no matter how much approval you get, it's never enough. I made a conscious decision not to raise my children with that mindset. They weren't taught to live for approval or shape their identity based on what others think. Instead, they were reminded again and again that their value doesn't come from outside opinions. Because the truth is simple. What someone else thinks about you is not your responsibility. But the ego flips that truth and convinces you that it's the most important thing in your life. It pushes you to do whatever it takes to be liked, to fit in, to be accepted. The ego also teaches separation. It tells you that you are different from everyone else, that you must compete, compare, and prove yourself. It creates a world where being number one feels like the ultimate goal. You see it everywhere, in sports, in careers, even in everyday life. People celebrate winning as if it defines their entire existence, and when they don't win, they feel like they've lost their value. But think about it. Why does fulfillment have to come at the cost of someone else losing? Why do we believe we must be better than others to feel complete? This constant competition only deepens the illusion of separation. And it doesn't stop there. The ego goes even further and convinces you that you are separate from what you desire. It makes you believe that what you want is outside of you, distant and hard to reach. But ancient wisdom teaches something very different. It says there is nowhere that the divine does not exist. If that's true, then it must exist within you. And if it exists everywhere, then it must also exist within everything you feel is missing. That means the solution is not to chase what you want, but to realign yourself with it, to reconnect, to return to that inner unity. That's what it truly means to practice yoga, not just physical movement, but union with the divine presence within you. The biggest illusion the ego creates is the belief that you are separate from that divine source. It tells you that God is somewhere outside, distant, unreachable. But the truth is, at your core, your original nature is pure love. That's who you are beneath all the conditioning. And all you really need to do is live from that place. There's a beautiful reflection from Rabindranath Tagore that captures the struggle with the ego. He describes walking alone, only to realize that the one following him, the one he cannot escape, is his own smaller self. That part of him is loud, restless, and unaware, and yet it's also the part he feels ashamed to bring into the presence of something higher. That's the challenge we all face, learning to move beyond that smaller version of ourselves. To reach what many call self-realization or self-actualization, you have to stop defining yourself through the lens of the ego. You have to let go of the labels, the comparisons, the need for approval, and the constant measuring of your worth. Instead, you begin to see yourself as an expression of love, as something connected to everything else. There's an old saying that no tree has branches foolish enough to fight among themselves. Yet when you look at humanity, you see conflict everywhere. Division, competition, even destruction. We create weapons, harm each other, and justify it as necessary. But if we were truly aware of our shared nature, none of this would make sense. Ancient teachings spoke strongly against this. They reminded us that every loss in conflict is something to be mourned, not celebrated.
because it reflects how far we've drifted from understanding who we really are.
There is a deeper place within us, a place of stillness and clarity, and it's only when the mind becomes quiet that we can reconnect with it. A mind filled with conflict cannot access that peace. But when you let go of the noise, when you release the inner struggle, something begins to return. You start remembering. Not learning something new, but remembering something that has always been there. The awareness that you are already whole, already connected, already complete. Coming closer to God or truth, or whatever name you give it, is not about searching outside yourself. It's about turning inward and living from what you find there. And maybe the simplest way to understand it is this. It's not about trying to love something distant or abstract. It's about learning to love each other, fully, genuinely, without conditions. Because in doing that, you naturally align with the very essence of what you've been seeking all along. What makes this topic so powerful is that it challenges the very foundation of how most people live their lives. Almost everything we are taught from childhood pushes us outward, toward achievement, approval, comparison, and accumulation. Over time, this conditioning becomes so deep that we stop questioning it. It feels normal to measure ourselves by what we own, what we accomplish, and how others see us. But the truth is, this way of living keeps us disconnected from our real nature. The subconscious mind plays a huge role in this. Because it runs most of our daily behavior automatically, it keeps repeating whatever patterns were installed early on. If those patterns are based on fear, limitation, or the need for validation, then we keep recreating the same experiences over and over again without even realizing it. That's why awareness is the first step. You have to see the pattern before you can change it. When you begin to observe your life more closely, you start noticing how often your decisions are influenced by the ego. You might choose something not because it truly resonates with you, but because it will impress others. You might avoid something because you're afraid of judgment. You might push yourself endlessly, thinking that one more achievement will finally make you feel complete. But that feeling never lasts because it's built on something external. Real change begins when you shift your attention inward. Instead of asking, "What do I need to get?" you start asking, "Who am I being?" That shift alone changes everything, because when you focus on who you are at your core, when you begin to embody peace, love, and clarity, you stop chasing fulfillment and start experiencing it naturally. This is also where the idea of letting go becomes so important. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means releasing the tight grip you have on control, outcomes, and identity. It means trusting that you don't have to force everything to happen. When you stop trying to control every detail, you create space for life to unfold in a more natural and aligned way. Another deep layer of this teaching is the idea of unity. The ego thrives on separation. It wants you to feel different, better, worse, ahead, or behind. But when you look beyond that, you start to see that everyone is part of the same source. The same life that exists in you exists in everyone else. When you truly understand this, competition starts to lose its meaning. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself at the expense of others. This shift also changes how you relate to challenges. Instead of seeing problems as obstacles that define you, you begin to see them as experiences that are passing through you. You stop identifying with every thought and emotion. You realize that you are the observer behind it all, the awareness that is watching everything unfold. As this awareness grows, your need for external validation naturally fades. You don't feel the same pressure to be approved, liked, or recognized. Not because you don't care, but because your sense of self is no longer dependent on it. You become more grounded, more stable, and more at peace within yourself. And from that place, something interesting happens. You actually start attracting better experiences, not because you're chasing them, but because you're aligned with them. Your energy changes, your presence changes, the way you respond to life changes, and all of that begins to reflect back to you
in the form of new opportunities, deeper relationships, and a stronger sense of purpose. This whole journey is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what has always been there, stripping away the layers of conditioning, the false identities, and the limiting beliefs until you reconnect with your true nature. And when you live from that place, life stops feeling like a constant struggle and starts feeling like a natural flow.
The Eiffel Tower was designed not only as a temporary centerpiece for the 1889 World's Fair, but also as a demonstration of modern engineering. At the time, many artists and intellectuals criticized it as ugly and out of place, yet it quickly became a symbol of innovation and progress. Its open lattice iron structure was revolutionary, allowing it to reach an unprecedented height while using relatively less material compared to traditional stone monuments. The tower stands in Paris along the Champ de Mars and attracts millions of visitors each year. It has 3 main levels accessible to the public, each offering a different perspective of the city. The first level includes exhibits and even a glass floor. The second level is known for its restaurants and sweeping views, and the summit gives a breathtaking panoramic view stretching across Paris, including landmarks like the Louvre Museum and Notre Dame Cathedral. At night, the Eiffel Tower becomes even more magical. It is illuminated by thousands of lights, and every evening it sparkles for a few minutes each hour. This lighting system uses energy-efficient technology and has become one of the most recognizable nighttime displays in the world. The tower was engineered by Gustave Eiffel and his team, though the actual structural design came from engineers Maurice Coquelin and Émile Nouguier. Its construction took just over 2 years, from 1887 to 1889, which was incredibly fast for such a large-scale project at the time. Originally intended to be dismantled after 20 years, it was saved because of its usefulness as a radio transmission tower, proving that innovation can extend far beyond its original purpose. Over time, the Eiffel Tower has played many roles beyond tourism. It has been used for scientific experiments, radio broadcasting, and even as a communication tower during wartime. Today, it stands not just as a monument, but as a cultural icon representing France's artistic spirit, engineering brilliance, and global influence. The truth is simple yet life-changing. You are not your past, your possessions, your achievements, or the opinions of others. You are something far greater, a limitless, formless presence that has been quietly guiding you all along. The moment you stop chasing validation and start aligning with your true nature, everything begins to shift. You don't need to become anything new, you only need to remember who you already are. And when you do, you won't just change your life, you will transform the way you experience existence itself. The truth is simple yet life-changing. You are not your past, your possessions, your achievements, or the opinions of others. You are something far greater, a limitless, formless presence that has been quietly guiding you all along. The moment you stop chasing validation and start aligning with your true nature, everything begins to shift. You don't need to become anything new. You only need to remember who you already are. And when you do, you won't just change your life. You will transform the way you experience existence itself.